chairs, panelists, serving officers, veterans, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning and welcome to this CAPS National Seminar on Assessing the State of Pakistan and India-Pakistan Dynamics. Interestingly, 14th December 1971, Flying Officer Nimaljit Singh Sekhon, aerial engagement that won India's highest award for bravery in the face of enemy. He took on a formation of 4 aircraft, which had another 2 which joined in later of the Pakistan Air Force, shot on 2, hit 1 which went back, and he was the first and the only Paramveer Chakra for Indian Air Force. 14 December 1971 was also the date when MiG-21s of 28th Squadron, Indian Air Force, attacked and destroyed the official residence of the governor of East Pakistan, also called the Government House. And Dr. A.M. Malik, the last governor of East Pakistan, wrote his first draft of his resignation letter to the cabinet and to President Yahya Khan with a shaking hand with the ballpoint, and that little piece of paper is now history. The remaining members of East Pakistan government resigned immediately thereafter, and Indian troops were all set now to get to Dhaka. Facing the defeat, the Pakistan Army and the right-wing Islamist militia Al-Badr carried out arrests and execution of about 200 intellectuals, Bangladeshi professors, physicians, journalists, and other Bangladeshi Bengali professionals. And Pakistan's famous Major General, not famous, unfamous Major General Rao Farman Ali on December 14 also gave orders to execute, and that particular day is now known as the Shahid Buddhijeevi Dibosh in Bengal, or in Bangladesh also called the Martyrs Intellectual Day. Pakistan has the gift of geography. We all know that by annexing POK, they have got closer to the Pamir Knot, which is the strategically most important place, and they have thereafter also joined up with China, and we all know the implications of that. The unfriendly Pakistan acts as a barrier for us in India, both for West Asia and to go towards Europe. And the proximity also gives them advantage with West Asia and Central Asia, but we will know whether that is an advantage or not. Pakistan has had a complex history, began with a bloody partition, followed by war in Jammu and Kashmir. Early years saw uncertainty in democracy, dominance and loot by select families, and dominance and of the army taking full advantage and later on staging a coup. The constitution could not be evolved for long. In fact, finally they got their constitution only in 1956 after making compromises with the various players in the game. They had serious issues in Northwest Frontier and Afghanistan and Baluch uprising. Some of it carries on even today. The Punjabi dominance continue to look at others, especially those in East Bengalis in East Pakistan, as less important constituents. The military finally took over governance, and the first military era was from 1958 to 1971, which ended only after the dismemberment of Pakistan in 1971 after the Indo-Pak War. The second democratic era began 1971 till 1977. You can call it the Bhutto years. This was the period when Pakistan was helping USA connect with China. And after 1974, peaceful nuclear explosions of India, Bhutto and led Pakistan decided that they will do anything, even eat grass, to get their nuclear program going. And Americans had sensed this. They tried to thwart it, but they were unsuccessful. This also became the beginning of the strained relations between India and Pakistan. Pakistan moved closer to China from here on, and also began engaging with Soviet Union. This was also the period for demand of establishment of Islamic State in the country. The second military era was 1977 to 1988. We all know Ziaul Haq came into power and committed himself to establishing an Islamic State and enforcing Sharia law. It was a period of prosecution, and the growth of state-sponsored religious conservatism. He established separate Sharia courts and benches to judge the legal cases using the Islamic laws and doctrines. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hanged early in Zia's tenure. 1977 he had taken over, 79 was the hanging. Though formed in 1948, Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI, became much more active, aggressive after Zia took over. Under pressure from President Reagan, General Zia finally lifted martial law in 1985 and held a non-partisan elections and handpicked Junojo as the Prime Minister. And Junojo in turn gave extension to Zia till 1990 as the army chief. Fortunately or unfortunately, Zia died in the mysterious plane crash in August 1988. The third democratic era between 1988 and 1999 were Benazir and Nawaz Sharif years. Problems with India further escalated after the 98 nuclear tests under Operation Shakti by India. The Pakistanis followed with their tests immediately, and this changed the entire security dynamics in the region. Notwithstanding Prime Minister Vajpayee's Lahore bus yatra, major conventional conflict under the nuclear overhang took place in Kargil. This was followed by the next military era from 1999 to 2007 when Musharraf took over. And this was the period also saw Benazir's assassination. The fourth democratic era began in 2008, still continues in whatever mess it is. The current position of Pakistan is in total state of mess. April last year, Imran Khan became the country's first prime minister to be removed by a no confidence motion in the parliament. The general elections are now stated to be in February 2024, and the whole world is watching what's going to happen. The country continues to face rapidly growing population, high illiteracy, corruption, political instability, and heavy foreign debt. GDP growth is 0.5% negative this year as of now. We have some more time to go. The base borrowing rate has increased to 22%. Inflation is at around 29%. Government debt is 79% of GDP, and last year saw 13% decline in exports and a 25% drop in foreign direct investment. The foreign exchange reserves had dipped to $4 billion. They have now come up to $8 billion, but still a thing of worry. More and more people you can see on YouTube are putting up videos in Pakistan comparing their terrible state to what's happening in India and how India is growing in stature and in its economy. On security front, Pakistan did not get the defense in depth that they were hoping to get in Afghanistan. In fact, they have got another front on the other side. More than a million Afghans are now awaiting deportment, and many of them have finding places to hide because they do not want to go back. Baluchis and Baltis are always on revolt, and of course, but terrorism remains active. Many well-known terrorists have been killed by this so-called unknown gunmen. And just yesterday, we know that 25 Pakistani soldiers got killed in KPK and another 34 were injured. The Pakistani armed forces, though somewhat politicized, continue to remain strong and are forced to contend with. The China-Pakistan BRI cooperation and military nexus needs a continuous watch by India. Today, 60% of all Pakistani military equipment is of Chinese origin, especially their nexus in aviation is very high, J-17. Also the Shaheen exercises that they are doing regularly between the two air forces. And Pakistan can always be a big spoiler in case of any skirmish or conflict takes place between India and China. Though there are many analysts around the world who feel that this friendship with China, they are always, the Pakistanis are conscious and making openings towards Soviet Union, to Russia and America, to bring out some kind of a balance between the two sides. We have two sessions today. And they're going to cover the state of Pakistan, the first session. And second session will cover the India-Pakistan dynamics, positions and options. We have some of the best names in the country who are going to be speaking to us today. I have therefore not dwelled into many other aspects because they are the best and they will be covering this. I'm very happy that Air Marshal Ranade, AVSM, VM, Director General Inspections and Safety, is amongst us to make the inaugural address. The Air Marshal is a fighter pilot who has commanded 2 operational bases. He has also been our air attaché in Kabul, Afghanistan. And before his current appointment, he was senior air staff officer in Western Air Command. May I now request the Air Marshal to kindly deliver the inaugural request. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I take this opportunity to thank Center for Air Power Studies for planning this seminar to focus on an extremely contemporary subject. Any amount of discussion or deliberations on this topic just cannot be the end of it. It's a constantly growing, constantly engaging topic which needs continuous analysis and necessary action at all levels. I also thank Air Marshal Anil Chopra, DG CAPS, for presenting me this opportunity to deliver the inaugural address to this august gathering. I'm a little overawed because some of my gurus of younger days are sitting here today in the audience, and it puts that much more pressure on me to deliver in front of them. But I'm sure, sir, with whatever you're taught, I should be able to stand my ground. There is also another issue of speaking after Air Marshal Chopra. In his welcome address, he covers everything, leaves nothing much for the next speaker to talk. That's a compliment to the level of awareness, knowledge that he has. And that got me scrambling to put a piece of paper in front of me to write down what else can I cover. So, sir, without meaning any harm to you or your large awareness on the subject, I'll take the liberty of now covering my inaugural address. A little more than 76 years ago, as the United Kingdom agreed to the partitioning of India, the state of Pakistan was established on 14th August 1947, amalgamating the Muslim majority eastern and northwestern regions of British India. Right from the beginning, Pakistan was keen that Jammu and Kashmir becomes a part of their dominion. And in pursuit of this objective, the Pakistan Army regulars and Pashtun tribesmen were launched to carry out an armed attack in the Kashmir Valley. Situation was getting bad for the Maharaja, and sensing that he could not sustain any longer, he sought help from the Indian government. However, at that moment, since Jammu and Kashmir was not part of India, he was told that if he has to seek help or if he wants to help that state, then the state has to become an integral part of the country. And therefore, the Maharaja signed an instrument of accession on 26 October 1947. And Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India, permitting our armed forces to tackle and beat back the intruders. Well, this obviously did not go down well with the Pakistan establishment, and the pot has been boiling ever since. The situation was further aggravated when Pakistan was divided in 1971 with the creation of Bangladesh, for which obviously Pakistan blames India ab initio. The two countries have fought wars, 4 in number, starting with 1947-48, then in 65, one in 71, and the last officially known war was the Kargil War in 1999. We have been victorious in all, and again, that puts Pakistan in a difficult spot. It is important to note that in the UN Resolution 47, which got us to cease the war with Pakistan in 1948, there were three conditions which were put in. And why I want to refer to this, because there's a lot of confusion even amongst the Indian diaspora, amongst the Indian population, as to why we are not conducting a plebiscite or so-called plebiscite in the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. So the first condition of this resolution was that there has to be cessation of all hostile activities by both the countries. Pakistan was to pull back its regulars, and those tribesmen who were pushed in to conduct a war or an aggression into Jammu and Kashmir. This was to be followed by India retaining the minimum number of security forces required to maintain stability in that state. And the third step in the sequence was to find and ascertain the will of the people, which would decide whether the state of Jammu and Kashmir would go to Pakistan or be with India or remain an independent state. So what has happened after that? Pakistan obviously has not pulled back its troops. Because that has not happened, India has maintained its security forces to ensure that there is a safety and security of the population there. And because the first two steps have not happened, obviously the third step cannot happen in a sequence. And while the plebiscite or the will of the people is automatically known by the elections that have been held in that state, the traditional question of whether that state wants to become a part of which country or whether to stay independent has never directly got addressed. Also, what we must understand is the fact that while the ceasefire came into existence, there has been deliberate attempt by the Pakistan establishment to populate these areas which were very sparsely populated earlier with its own people, mainly retired military personnel, thereby changing the demographic pattern of that state. So tomorrow, if there is to be a plebiscite, we will have 4 people who are not regular citizens or regular habitants of that place staying there and therefore contributing to the fact that they want to go towards Pakistan. It's very important for us to understand, because many of us, like I said, are still not very clear that why are we not holding a plebiscite, which was the UN mandate. Then also in the 1965 war, it was India which went to UN saying that enough of war, now we want some peace. And when we found that there was a dithering on the part of the United Nations, in the 71 war we did not find and wait for such action to happen from our side. That was a decisive blow, which was well required, and therefore obviously it didn't go down well with Pakistan, as I said earlier. The Kargil conflict is rather recent and all of us have very good memories, so I will not dwell much upon that. As for the conflicts, which is one step lower than the war, we are in an ongoing conflict with Pakistan since 22nd October 1947, when the tribesmen attacked the Kashmir Valley. Add to this the Siachen conflict, which started in 1984 with Op Meghdoot launched by India, and which is again ongoing so far till now at the highest battlefield in the world. Add to this the numerous skirmishes between the two countries that happen off and on, some of minor nature, some of not so minor nature, and that brings out the point that we have our hands full as far as this adversary is concerned. Having to taste defeat at the hands of India, Pakistan then resorted to the military doctrine of bleed India with 1,000 cuts. This consisted of waging covert war against India using insurgents at multiple locations. It was first attempted during the Punjab insurgency and then continued in the Kashmir Valley. Initially, they did find success, there's no doubt about it, because probably we were taken by surprise. But over time, and with concerted efforts by all concerned agencies, and of course with a higher resilience and patience by the Indian government and the military, the strategy has dwindled in its success rate as of now. Needless to say, Pakistan ISI continues to resort to this methodology of troubling us though they are not gaining adequate traction within their own country. The nuclear capability of both the countries is another area of concern. While India has a clearly defined and articulated no first use policy, it is not so with Pakistan. While there have been certain veiled threats on that count from our adversary, one really wonders if that option would really be put to use. Now, there is another issue which we must keep in mind, and that issue is regarding what is happening between Pakistan and Afghanistan on their borders. I have had the opportunity of being in Afghanistan, as the DG said in his welcome address. I was there for about 2 years and 2.5 months. And that is the time when I could very easily see that the Pakistan ISI had a strong grip over what was happening in Afghanistan. The issue was also that the Pakistan government could not do anything with the Indians in Pakistan, because safety of Indians in Pakistan was the responsibility of the Pakistan government. However, in Afghanistan, they had no such issues. They could target people at will, and there were militias in Afghanistan, the warlords, many of them who were pliant as far as the Pakistan ISI is concerned. All of us are well aware of the Haqqani network, and that was the one which was utilized to carry out attacks. One on the Indian embassy, where we had a brigadier and a MEA councillor where they were killed. And after that attack, when I landed up there, we had an attack on the Indian compound where our doctors and paramedics were staying and engaged in absolutely peaceful activities. So that was the kind of freedom which Pakistan ISI had in Afghanistan in those days. But from the time the Afghanistan situation has changed, when we had the Taliban back into power, now the rate of the Pakistani government does not mean much, and that we have seen from the repeated snubs which the Pakistan government has been facing at the hand of the Taliban regime. The tensions on the border, the absolute or complete lack of trust between the two parties, the issues that are hampering, even mutual discussions, is something which is a cause for concern for us. There is also an issue with the economy of Pakistan. DG referred to many things, and in addition to that, the shortage of critical commodities is pushing them to the brink. And who bears the brunt of this? It is the common man. And that is what is brought out in the media on multiple occasions. But does that mean that the Pakistan Army, Air Force and the Navy, does that mean that they're going to shut down shop? Certainly not. While on the one hand, there is an issue with the availability of resources, on the other hand, we very easily see that the Pakistan military forces are engaging in bilateral and multinational exercises, and their numbers are only increasing. With Turkey, with China, with certain other countries, some of them multinational in nature, and the Pakistani participation is very much there to see. They are also spending money on procuring sophisticated and modern equipment, including some modern aircraft. While the DG Caps mentioned about J-17, the latest in their acquisition is the J-20C, J-10C, I beg your pardon. Now that is not an easy buy, and the mere fact that China is giving them this weapon or platform indicates that in any future conflict, we cannot be oblivious to the fact of any collusivity between these two countries. And we put the equation of collusivity in the whole scheme of things. We need to start thinking slightly differently than what we have been doing so far. Well, I'm very sure that the way we observe, analyze, and train, we should be able to meet up and give a resounding reply if we are called to do so. But this point cannot be going out of our memory. So we have an interesting country as our neighbor, keeping us engaged in diplomatic as well as military circles. Looking at Pakistan many times reminds me of a very famous song, How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? From the famous English movie, The Sound of Music. Now, all those of us who have heard this song, I'm sure every time that song plays in front of you, you will start thinking about Pakistan. At least I do that. Of course, in the movie, the nuns were singing the song about Maria, the not so always obedient colleague of theirs. Here we are talking about crooked thugs, if you can use or take the liberty of using that term in jest. Well, the Indian Air Force is vigilant at all times and ready for action when called upon to do so. I'm sure the sister services are also equally ready to go. A similar situation can also be expected from the diplomatic domain. All said, one can't be lax or unmindful of such a tricky neighbor. Add to that the prospect of collusivity, which I referred to some time back, and we have a new beast to handle. So we have to always and consistently keep this point in the back of our mind. It is indeed delightful to know that these very aspects are going to be talked about in detail in the ensuing sessions. With the esteemed panel members giving us their insights into these aspects, I'm sure that the proceedings will only get more and more interesting as the time goes by. In the end, I once again convey my gratitude to CAPS for organizing this national seminar. And may the experts rule the roost from now on. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your remarks. May I now request Air Marshal Anil Chopra to present souvenir to Air Marshal M. Ranade.